Here are 10 stats to help you take down that W in Week 8. Starting with 24.8, that was Kareem Hunt's expected fantasy points in Week 7, which led all running backs, and since taking over the lead job 3 weeks ago, he ranks 11th among all running backs in expected fantasy points. Not only that, over that stretch he has more goal line carries than any other running back with 5. And now he gets a Raiders defense allowing the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. They've allowed 6 touchdowns to running backs this year. Kareem Hunt is in another smash spot this week in a great matchup. He gets 20 plus touches a game. He gets goal line work. He has touchdown upside. Kareem Hunt, a strong start at the running back position in Week 8. The next stat is 13, and that unfortunately is Chuba Hubbard's combined fantasy points in Weeks 1 and 2 with Bryce Young starting for the Carolina Panthers. And sadly, we're going to get Bryce Young starting for the Carolina Panthers again this week. Not to mention, this is not a good matchup against the Broncos defense that has been very good against the run this year. They just held Alvin Kamara to 10 rushing yards in Week 7, and the only running back to even reach 100 yards against him was Kenneth Walker way back in Week 1, where he barely had 102 yards. Look, Chuba Hubbard has been great since Andy Dalton took over. 95 fantasy points in 5 games, almost 20 points a game. But with Bryce Young under center and in this tough matchup against the Broncos, not saying you have to outright sit Chuba Hubbard because he has been good. He could score, but this likely is not going to be one of his best weeks. And I think he's more of like a flex option this week. So if you have somebody better at running back, this might be the week to sit Chuba Hubbard. The next stat you need to know is 67. That was the percent of backfield touches Chase Brown got over Zach Moss. And it wasn't just a Week 7 thing. This has been happening over time here where Chase Brown has slowly but surely taken over this backfield. When you look at it over the last 3 games, Chase Brown has 37 carries, Zach Moss only 21, and they each have 8 targets. It looks like Chase Brown has finally taken over this backfield as expected. Now, I will say I don't think Chase Brown is a great start in Week 8 because they get this Eagles run defense. If you need him, sure, you can, but not going to be one of my favorite starts. But he's definitely a guy I think if he's still on your waiver wire and you have bench space, he needs to be added everywhere. It looks like Chase Brown is taking over this backfield. And if that's the case and this continues, you're going to want him in this Cincinnati offense going forward. The next stat you need to know is 42. That is the amount of targets Marvin Harrison has this year, which ranks 30th among all players, right around guys like Christian Kirk, Darius Slayton. Not what we expected from the first round rookie this year, that is for sure. And things probably won't get any easier for him this week facing this Dolphins secondary that has gotten much better over the recent weeks. Jalen Ramsey in the beginning of the season did not look good. Coming back from the injury, he struggled, but man, he's looked really good recently. He looks like he's all the way back. You got to think he's going to shadow Marvin Harrison or at least spend a big chunk of this game on Marvin Harrison Jr. The Dolphins have turned into a kind of a run funnel defense. They're bad against the run, great against the pass. This is likely to be another week where Marvin Harrison underwhelms a bit for fantasy. I'm not saying you have to outright bench Marvin Harrison no matter what, but if you have better options at the wide receiver position or guys in better matchups, I would go ahead and think about benching Marvin Harrison this week. Probably going to be another letdown for the rookie. If you're getting value out of this video, do me a favor, take a quick second, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. The next stat you need to know is 44.4. That was Christian Watson's route participation in Week 7, which was the exact same as Dontavian Wicks because apparently the Packers decided, hey, these guys kind of do the same thing, so let's just alternate series with this guys. Yeah, that's exactly what they did. One series, Watson's out there. The next one, Wicks is out there. I know it's the Jaguars. I know it's a great matchup. I know Christian Watson can always score a touchdown. He can always hit on that long play, but man, only getting 44% of the routes, you're really taking a big risk here if you put Christian Watson in your lineup this week, even in this smash matchup. I like Jaden Reed. I like Romeo Doubs, but Christian Watson and also Dontavian Wicks, they feel way too risky this week. I mean, look, if you need a home run and you're completely desperate, it is a good matchup. But outside of that, I would be sitting Christian Watson. The next stat you need to know is 40.5. That is Demario Douglas's target share with Drake May under center. Now, last week I called him a boom, and unfortunately he had that illness that kept him out for most of the game. He was kind of in, kind of out, and he certainly didn't boom. But I don't think you should give up on him, even though you look and you say, well, it's the Jets. This is a tough matchup. Yes, the Jets are a good secondary, but they're actually a great matchup for Demario Douglas. The Jets play the most cover 1 of any team in the NFL and the 6th most cover 4 of any team in the NFL, and Demario Douglas just so happens to dominate those 2 coverages. And earlier this year when the Patriots played the Jets, he had a 38% target share and a 58% receiving share in this Patriots passing attack. There's nobody here really stepping up. Jalen Polk might not even play, but even if he does, who cares? Kendrick Bourne coming back from ACL. Pop Douglas is going to be the guy for Drake May. I know he let down last week. He certainly let me down last week, but I'm saying don't give up on him. Give him another chance this week. I think he could have a nice game. The next stat you need to know is 0.5. That is Dak Prescott's new customer special line on Underdog. I feel very confident he can hit 1 yard in this game on Sunday Night Football. You take that new customer special, pair it with any other pick or picks you like. It's an easy win right out of the gate, and you join using code NGAME. Not only do you get that Dak new customer special, but you're going to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash that you can use right away to make those picks. All right, the next stat you need to know is 50. That was Jerry Jeudy's first read percentage with Jameis Winston at quarterback. Now, I talked about him a bit on the Booms video, but if you missed it, I'll talk about him again here. You look at it, when Jameis Winston was in the game, he led all pass catchers with 4 targets. That was more than double of any other pass catcher. It seems like he is actually the guy Jameis Winston prefers. And this is a great matchup this week against the Baltimore Ravens pass funnel defense, allowing the most fantasy points to wide receivers right now. I still like Cedric Tillman. I still think he's a good spot start, but it looks like by the numbers and by what we saw, granted in a short sample, it looks like Jerry Jeudy may be Jameis Winston's number 1 preferred option. So go ahead, fire up Cedric Tillman if you need him, but I think Jerry Jeudy might actually be the guy who benefits the most with Jameis under center this week. The next stat you need to know is 26.7. That was David Njoku's expected fantasy points in week 7, which led all players in week 7. And, I just said Jeudy probably benefits the most. David Njoku might actually benefit more than any other player in this Browns passing attack. He's got touchdown upside. He's getting the target share. He's getting involved, and he no longer has Deshaun Watson, and I just talked about it. He gets this Ravens pass funnel defense. They're allowing the 7th most fantasy points to tight ends. This is a great spot for David Njoku. I think we have to consider him a very strong start at tight end, if not a borderline must start at tight end this week. So if you've been holding on to David Njoku, if you're able to scoop him up off the waiver wire, roll him out this week. He should come through for you. The next stat you need to know is 12.9. That was Tank Dell's expected fantasy points in week 7, which was the most among all Houston pass catchers. Now, the Houston passing attack did absolutely nothing in week 7, but they're in a good bounce back spot this week at home against the Colts. And you look at it the last 2 weeks without Nico Collins, Tank Dell's expected fantasy points is 37.2, which is 8th among all pass catchers. And this is an especially good matchup for Tank because the Colts run the 3rd most cover 3 of any defense in the NFL this year. You look last year, against cover 3, Tank Dell had a 2.62 yards per route run. Against all other coverages, it was only 2.22 yards per route run. He's very good against cover 3. And again, you look at it last year, he was better against cover 3 than Stephon Diggs was. He's left a lot of meat on the bone these last 2 weeks as far as fantasy points go. Maybe this is the week it all comes together and he finally explodes. Don't give up on Tank Dell. He's risky, sure, I admit that, but it's also a good matchup for him. He could come through. So if you're looking at guys like Tank Dell or Marvin Harrison, I would just go Tank Dell. And the last stat you need to know is 320. That is the amount of average passing yards per game the Colts have allowed this season if you take out starts against Malik Willis, Will Levis, and Tyler Huntley. They allowed 363 passing yards to Caleb Williams, 333 passing yards to Justin Fields, and 371 passing yards to Trevor Lawrence. These aren't like the best quarterbacks in the league here, and they are getting torched by these quarterbacks. Now they got to face CJ Stroud at home, and CJ Stroud has some really curious home road splits this year. You look at it in the 3 home games this year, he's thrown his only 2 300-plus yard games, and he hasn't gone under 260 yards in any of those games. You look at him on the road, his best game so far this year was 234 yards, which, oh, by the way, came against these same Colts. I know Stroud has been a big disappointment this year, and so has Tank Dell, but this feels like a big bounce back spot for both of them. Don't give up on them. Go ahead, roll them out in your lineups this week. They should both be great, but especially CJ Stroud should be one of the top quarterbacks in week 8. So now you got some insider info that the rest of your league doesn't have. You need more insider info than that. Who to start, who to sit, who could boom. We got you covered. Check out our week 8 playlist right here.